G'day Bomber fans, well I've interrupted our regular draft profile upload schedule to bring you a little bit of news. We love news over here. So obviously we've added quite a few young players to the list in the last week, and we aren't done because on the first day of the supplemental selection period we've added former Brisbane defender Jaxon Prior. He has joined as an SSP recruit, meaning our list is almost fully complete. We had 2 available list spots, we now have 1, but I'm happy narrowing that down to get this bloke. If you know the channel, you would know that of all the players we were linked to over the trade period, Membry, McGuinness, Stone, of all these players, Prior was my favourite. So there's a bit to talk about today. I'm happy Jaxon Prior has joined Essendon. Let's get yapping about him. And also for those wondering about Kaine Baldwin, I'm going to talk about him later in the video. I just got to say that before comments about him start coming through. Alrighty, so on Monday the 25th of November, yesterday, the very first day of the supplemental selection period, the SSP dates range quite a lot, by the way. The period ends next year. So on the very first day, and the first day that Prior turned up to train in the red and black, he was given a contract. He's been added to the rookie list. Now, there may be some wondering why we didn't put him through the ringer and make him train for a spot on the list. We've been linked to this bloke for ages now. There was talk of us trading for him in the trade period. Then there was talk of us picking him up as a delisted free agent. In the end, I reckon what happened here was we told Prior that we'd be more comfortable taking him as an SSP recruit after the draft. One, because we'd have more clarity in regards to list spots. And Prior, by the way, didn't actually nominate for the draft. And if he did, he could have been taken by a team like Gold Coast, for example. So we told him, don't nominate for the draft. We'll take you for free as an SSP signing. That way, someone you don't want to join doesn't pick you up instead. And he obviously trusted that we would pick him up after. There would have to be a lot of trust put into this, and we signed him on day 1. So this was obviously planned a while ago, probably even after he was delisted, to be honest. Yeah, and it also means that we were able to get day wicks in the rookie draft instead of having to pick Prior there. So this was the smarter move, taking him as an SSP signing rather than the rookie draft, because it gave us a chance to take another 18-year-old as a rookie. So yeah, really this is as low risk a selection as you can possibly get, and something that I don't think people are talking about enough. Prior is also still young. He's only 23 years old. Yes, he's played 39 games in one of the best AFL systems, but he should still be improving when he gets to his physical peak. So let's talk about Prior as a player a bit. So what should we be expecting from him on our list, and whether or not he can break into that first team. So Prior is a 189cm defender or utility. It depends on how you look at it. He is versatile enough to play multiple roles, which is good, and he already has for Brisbane. He played forward of the ball early. He kicked a few goals in his short career there. As I said earlier, he played 39 games for the Lions, but well over half those games were in his first 2 years as a 19 and 20-year-old. In fact, he played 30 games across 2021 and 2022, and just 9 in his last 2 seasons. And you might look at that and say he slowed down, he couldn't break into the team, and he was delisted. But the way I see it, this is a young man who has been overlooked by the best team in the competition. I know it looks funny to pick up rejects from other clubs, but when they're players like Prior who showed promise and just couldn't get back into the best team in the comp, the best team, not any team but Brisbane, it makes perfect sense to pick him up, especially because our defensive depth has taken a massive hit in the last few seasons. I know I get comments trolling me on this a little bit, but Heppel and Kelly both retired after playing most of the year this year. Nick Hind was depth and he was delisted. Massimo was traded. We needed a player like Prior in. We needed some depth for the future and for now. We got the future in the draft and the now with Prior, who I expect to play footy this year. He comes in at that really good size and build. He's really versatile in his defensive roles and can lock down pretty well. He's got a booming left boot, which he likes to use, but I'd be focusing on his defensive craft and intercepting as a player. He's someone I can see playing quite deep in defence to give Redmond more room in D50 and to allow Nick Martin a chance to push up on the wing, hopefully. I actually personally think Prior slides into our best 23 straight away if he impresses. I think his defensive capabilities give us more assurance in D50, which we lacked a bit last year, and he's definitely someone who you don't mould a team around, but you can mould into a role, and that's why I like this pickup. He can play on a range of different players. There are some defenders who are limited to plays on their own build and stature, but Prior's range is a bit wider, which really helps, and I think he gives us that back left pocket outlet kick when we are under pressure. As I said, he's got a really nice booming left boot, so he can be that player hanging around that pocket when we're retreating a bit, kind of like what you saw with Kelly and Heppel last year. It's important to have natural kicks deep for those scenarios. Now, also, fun little fact about Prior, and something I didn't really realise straight away until you guys were quick to point it out in the comments, but Prior is actually a father-son. His father, Michael, played for Essendon Essendon, but he played less than 100 games, so his son Jaxon was unable to join us through father-son rules. That's why he was drafted to Brisbane. And Jaxon himself is actually from Western Australia, so we now have 4 on our list, I think. Martin, Guelphy, Jerine, and Prior. Let me know if I'm missing any there. So yeah, there are some family links at the club now. There are some location links. Michael can hopefully pass on info to his son about the club in the glory days. He didn't play in that 2000 grand final, but he was a part of the team. He was gone to West Coast the year after in 2001, but he was at Essendon from 94 to 2000, so he was around for a good time. He was there around during the season when the club was at its peak, arguably, so he'll have a lot to share. But yeah, Prior joins Essendon, a signing I personally really like. Low risk, as low a risk as you can get. This is kind of like getting a quarter pounder meal at Macca's, finishing off everything in 2 minutes, and then realising you got chips left at the bottom of the bag. Those chips are not the ones you want first, but they still taste bloody good. And before you criticise me for comparing Prior to fast food, I'm a sucker for Macca's. I love it. That's the highest compliment you can get from me. But yeah, I'm really happy with this pickup. I've said it since we were linked that this would be good business, and it just so happens that we get him for as cheap as he can possibly be. Like with Martin, who was also an SSP signing back in 2022, we have had success from this form of list management in the past, so hopefully he can be even half as good as what Martin is. But yeah, Prior is a nice kick. He's a good defender. He isn't anything overly special, not someone to get overly hyped for, but I think he can be a really handy player for us. Think Marty Gleeson. I don't know if you remember him, but Marty Gleeson, someone who other clubs don't really talk about much and think about much, but for your club, they're just a good, solid, hard-working defender. That's the vibe I reckon we're going to get from Jaxon Prior, who I expect to play next season. And before we end, just a little bit on Kaine Baldwin, who is he was delisted by Essendon at the end of the season, but he is also training at the club for that extra list spot. We do have another list spot open, but there are no guarantees that we take a player with it. We may instead opt to keep that spot open for the mid-season draft. That way, if we're struggling in a certain position or role during the year, we can add strength to it on the run, rather than completing our list and not giving ourselves the opportunity to do that. Because we are quite a young team, I wouldn't be surprised if we do take Baldwin back, or another player, just to give us more ready-made depth. But first things first for Baldwin, he just needs to get his body right. This preseason is really important, and if he has one injury setback, even if it's minor, I just would not want him at the club. Even as it is, I'm skeptical of this one, to be honest. I know many like Baldwin, but I think there's a lot of overhyping with his ability. The bloke hasn't even cracked 10 games and people are wanting him on the team ASAP and saying that he's, I guess, one of our next big defenders. I wouldn't hate him getting another year, but I think he has to, at the very least, stay fit and healthy during training. And for that reason, I hope and believe that the club will take as long as possible to assess this one. This could be a signing made just before the SSP period ends, even early next year. So yeah, we're going to find out what happens with Baldwin a bit later down the track, and I'll give you updates as it happens. I've been asked my opinion in some comments, and I think in a few weeks I'll probably go into detail a bit, talking about it in its own video. But personally, as it is right now, and it is still so early, but as I said, I'd be hesitant to add him back on the list. I probably wouldn't want it. His body just hasn't been able to hold up over the years. And I mean, if he was to get injured, he could at least be added to the injury list and free up a list spot there for the mid-season draft if it was a long-term injury. But I don't know. I personally am not sold on this one yet. Let me know what you think down below. And that is that. Just a quick update on our newest signing, Jaxon Prior. Let me know what you think about Prior down in the comments. I'm also going to have my video out about Zach Johnson tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. I'll do a Guernsey number prediction this week as well, I reckon, because I need to redeem myself after getting 0 last year. And I'll post a post-draft best 23 as well. But that is all for now. Cheers for watching. Like, subscribe, and go Bombers.